So I'm gonna try to knock myself out, go to sleep, or something, watch TV. But here's another thing. I feel like the three videos that I just made were pretty good. What is that evaluation based on? Basically, just that I don't have. Just when certain moments come back to me, I get one of these, and there aren't many moments where I feel like I don't have a lot of lingering questions or things that I think you might have. But here's one thing, and it's something I always forget about. I'm always confused when I have a conversation with people. Or no, I should say, anyway, I never notice. So here's the thing that you might not know. It's kind of important to it theory and to just self-awareness. The brain changes constantly. So first of all, even as I'm making this video, this is new information. These words, they are stimuli that are coming in and that are triggering certain domino streams that weren't active or didn't run before these words. And then what happens is, how the brain learns is that the more that an it is activated, the more that it will be activated in the future because it has better strengths. Okay, so in it theory doesn't have. Okay, hold on a second. When we work on MAPITs, we need some way to speculate weights. Weights can only be empirically observed. But we can speculate them based on the behavioral output and whatever inputs we know about. And whatever it's we know that all humans evolved with or that exist in the population. And then based on what the result is, we can say, oh, well, that it must not have played, must not have played as large of a role. But I have a word for this. When we talk about the strength of an it, I'm sorry, 2 seconds. What did we come up with? Fudge. For saying that an it is stronger. We have kit, connected, and then I will have it in the vocab. All right, but the point of this video. So here's what I've heard people say. I've heard people say. So a bit is an it that's more internal to the sit stem than whatever we're comparing it to. Okay. What about the strength of it? I know. Anyway. So we just need some way to say that something plays a bigger role, that it's more kit is that It's connected to many different things. But what about the actual strength of a connection between two its? Lit. Let's just do that for now. Let's just do that for now. It's more lit. Yeah. Because it makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right, hold on. Sorry. Okay, so the point is, in it, well, you have more or less lit. And if it's, more lit, it's more likely to, it hypes more. Oh, it's more hype. Because it hypes more, it's more likely to slap, and it hypes the next cell. So it's more hype. Okay, good. All right, that's enough. So we don't need lit. Okay. We'll just say that lit means very hype. Okay. So hype, and then the opposite of that being pi. Okay, great. So when used as an adjective, it means you're describing the connection between two its. Saying that this it is likely to have a great influence on the... Okay. I can't believe you stuck with me. Oh, but, alright, the point is that people, one thing I've heard people say is that we'd all be the same if we're just our brains. If there isn't a soul, then what would make us different? So one, you have to understand the intricacy of the brain. Our stomachs may all be very similar, very, very, very similar. We basically do all the same things, maybe, with the stomach. There's going to be slightly different digestive properties between individuals, but it's not like the kind of differences that you'll see in the brain. And that's because of all the different possible, because the function of the brain is in the specific order, the arrangement of the cells. Maybe you could say that about anything. But no, I think I'm saying something true. And so, that's why we have neurologists, and then we have psychologists. Neurologists deal with the brain as an organ, in the sense of, it's the same for everybody. A psychiatrist or a psychologist, a good one that's up to date, is going to be looking at this organ not as just like an organ, but in its specific details, because those details matter a lot for the speech and behavior and the perceptions and the sensations and all that, and the interpretations. So, one thing, no. If we're just our brains, that does not mean that we're all the same. It might mean, though, that we're more similar than you think, and that is the case. A lot of times we see people's behavior and we assume that their brain is different, that that's the behavior that their brain produces, whereas the behavior that you produce, they also produce sometimes in other situations, because that's what happens with the nuance of so many different permutations of activity. And that's called the fundamental attribution error, where you take someone's output and you go, oh, that's their entire system. Their system always produces that output. That's an indication of them, but it might be more an indication of the conditions. So that's why we might be surprised to realize how similar we are. And that's why people are very different. Then they sit down and they have a nice conversation, like, holy shit, we're so similar. Oh my gosh, I thought you were this monster. I thought you were blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, we're so similar. And that's what we're seeing on social media, all this very relatable stuff. And it's amazing sometimes, the little experience. And you would have thought that only that happened with you. But no, oh my gosh, thousands of other people commenting saying they thought it was only going to be them. You have the, starts with a B, not Baldwin, the Barnum effect, right? You can give a paragraph that's supposed to be personalized to an individual, give it to everybody, and well, one, they'll see the things in there that they feel like apply to them. But also, there'll be nothing outrageously, like, different, because we are kind of all the same. Okay. So that's one thing that I hear, that people think that if we're brains, then they think that brains are all the same in the ways that matter. And well, no, they're not. There are lots of differences in what areas are more lit and so on, what streams are more lit. So, and then also there's just so much variability because of different conditions. And it's the stomach. I don't know. I feel like our other organs aren't as sensitive to the different pieces of information as our brain is. Because if our stomach is affected by the different chemical compounds, well, those things were eaten, and some of those chemical compounds were tasted, and the brain deals with taste. Brain also deals with hearing. Brain also anyway. So one thing I hear is that if we're just brains, then we would all be the same. And then the other thing is, like, people are like, yo, but okay, so we've got these brains, and maybe those are instincts or something. But then when you, like, change something or make a different decision or whatever, that's got to be the soul. But no, the brain, its connections are changing, and we know that thanks to Donald Hebb, who showed us, who told us, who taught us that the more two its talk, the stronger the connection will be for them, and the easier it will be for them to talk in the future. And the less they talk, the weaker the connection between them, and the less likely, therefore, that they will talk in the future. If you have a very tenuous connection, imagine, this is not biologically accurate, but imagine you've got two its like this. This guy has to shout a lot louder for this guy to hear him. Okay? Let's say he shouts. Well, the way that we evolved, the way the biology of the brain works, lucky enough, when this guy shouts, this guy steps a little closer. Well, we can't be shouting, so he heard what he said. He steps a little closer so they don't have to shout as loudly anymore. So he shouts a little quieter the next thing that he wants to say. We don't want to shout, so he steps a little closer. Before you know it, this guy doesn't have to shout anymore. He can just whisper. He just goes, doot. And this guy hears it, and, the reaction continues. That makes sense? So that's great. Just one of the principles of brain development or brain function is that it doesn't like shouting. So it makes it easier for people to talk who want to talk. Okay. So the brain learns. The brain changes. Depending on what, interpretations and behaviors are practiced and rewarded. All right, that's all I want to say.